Supersonic travel is once again going to take off nearly 2 decades after Concorde last flew. The American airline United has announced it's going to buy 15 supersonic planes, with the first flights expected to operate in 2029. Let's find out more about this, shall we, from aviation expert Doug McLean. Morning to you, Doug.
Good morning.
So let's start with the basics. What does supersonic actually mean, and how does it differ from the plane travel we might be used to going on our holidays?
Well, it's obviously so much faster. I mean, what we're talking about here is an aircraft which would be slightly smaller than Concorde was, going slightly slower, about 200 miles an hour slower than Concorde, but twice as fast as most commercial jets at the moment. So we're looking at a prototype, a scaled down prototype, which is being built just now and should fly this year. And then the full-scale aircraft to be developed and flown from about 2025 onwards. And then, if everything goes okay, be delivered to customers in 2029, and supersonic travel would be back again.
As you say, back again. Concorde was doing this from the early 70s or the late 60s or whenever, wasn't it? So the technology's obviously there. If supersonic travel is so good and such a panacea, why haven't we got it now?
Well, the technology was there in the 60s and 70s, you're correct, but Concorde was hugely inefficient. From an order book, I was just looking at something the other day that showed me in 1969, Pan Am had ordered, I think, about 50 Concordes, and actually never took any deliveries because it turned out to be so inefficient. The airplane was beautiful airplane. For the early to late 60s, technology was marvellous, but it simply didn't make any sense on an economic basis. Now, this Overture aircraft, company based in Denver, Colorado, are looking at operating at something like 25% of the costs of Concorde, taking advantage of the new composite materials to build the aircraft, making it much lighter and stronger, and also new engine technology.
And I saw some pictures this morning, some kind of graphic mock-ups this morning of, I think, what this plane is going to look like. And it looks very similar to Concorde, a kind of long, thin dart with the iconic triangular wings. Is it going to be of the same design? And is it going to be similarly uncomfortable? Because Concorde was famously brutal to fly in, wasn't it?
I never had the pleasure of flying.
Me neither.
Well, yes. I mean, the basic design, the Delta Dart type design, is the most efficient. However, you immediately notice the difference. The Overture is a 3-engine aircraft, whereas Concorde was 4. There are slight differences in it, but they also get away with. Concorde had its famous droop nose, so that the pilots could see when they were landing. This is going to be done by technology with cameras, so that the aircraft shape doesn't change much. But the very, very significant thing about this is it seems to have a far longer range. New York to London in 3.5 hours is a fantastic time. But they're talking about doing Singapore to Dubai. They're talking about doing Los Angeles to Tokyo. Very long-range flights. And really, if you're going supersonic for 5, 6, 7 hours, that really makes a huge difference in journey time.
Yeah, and the other thing we famously remember about Concorde, apart from the speed, was the price tag. It was only available to the very, very richest. Will this necessarily, this new technology, I mean, you said it was going to be 25% of the price of Concorde. Will that be reflected in the ticket price? Is this going to be kind of available to everybody, this kind of travel?
No, I don't think it ever will, to be honest. What the figures are saying is, and this is obviously before the pandemic, that business travel, Concorde last flew in 2003, and business travel has expanded by 2.5 times, a hugely much bigger market than previously was available to Concorde. But it will be a premium priced product. They're talking about perhaps $5,000 for a very comfortable flight, though. The airplane is although it has between 60 and 85 passengers, certainly the designs they're looking at look far more comfortable and much more equivalent to the current business model that you would see on the premium products now.
Yeah, and Concorde famously ended in disaster. The project, literally, a crash was what did for it as an aircraft in service. Is that kind of? I mean, was that down to technology, or is supersonic flight inherently risky? Because in fact, it came down after takeoff, didn't it? So it wasn't anything to do with the speed.
No, it was in fact debris on the runway which shredded the tires and wheels and actually punctured the fuel tanks of the aircraft very sadly. But I mean, supersonic flight is routine now. I mean, we have so many fast jets, military jets. Interesting though, this order and this announcement comes. United are putting down deposits on the first 15 airplanes, so they're actually paying hard cash. Airlines like Virgin and Japan Airlines have options, but I don't think they're paying cash at the moment. But this comes about a month after another company was developing a supersonic business jet and had billions of dollars worth of advance orders, but nobody was actually paying the money up front, so they went out of business. So really, it's a very exciting project. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said probably it's got very little chance of actually coming to fruition. But then again, we've seen private spaceflight now, SpaceX and Elon Musk and all the fantastic things that have been done with spaceflight. So this is a private enterprise and it may well succeed.
Yeah, lastly, Doug, I mean, we're talking about these commercial aircraft coming on stream maybe at the end of the decade, 2029. That's not a long time to develop this technology, but it is a long time in terms of societal attitudes. Now, the industry's taken a whack from coronavirus. The other big pressure on it is, environmental concerns. By 2029, this kind of travel may be desperately unfashionable, might it not?
Yes, indeed, and the company are claiming that they are developing a fuel technology which will be carbon neutral from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
It's a bit of a secret at the moment about what they're doing, and the engine technology and the fuel that they're developing for it. But if they're going to fly what they're calling the baby boom, the 1/3 size model later on this year, then they must be pretty confident that they actually have fuel to run it with. So they have very much an environmental aim, and that's one of the conditions that United have put on this order, that it meets not only the technology and the safety standards that they would expect, but it is also a green airplane, if you like to call it that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a lot of technical specification they're not releasing at the moment, isn't there? Doug McLean, aviation expert, thank you very much indeed for sharing that expertise with us this morning.
Yeah, carbon neutral supersonic flight. Perfect. Perfect.